Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back in time, but we're not starting in a grand palace or on a famous battlefield. At least, not yet. We're going somewhere far wilder. A place of endless grass under an endless sky, where your survival depends not on gold or titles, but on how well you can read the clouds and how fast you can ride a horse. Frankly, given the amenities or lack thereof, you probably wouldn't last today. But that's what I'm here for. I'll be your guide. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support truly helps this channel grow. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Drop your city and the time in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into a 2 nights journey together. The first thing you're aware of is the wind. It's a constant companion here. A presence that has 1,000 different voices. Sometimes it whispers secrets through the tall feather grass, and other times it howls like a hungry wolf across the plains. You are a child of this wind, born on the vast, rolling expanse of the Eurasian steppe. Your world isn't measured in city blocks or farm plots, it's measured in horizons. In every direction, the land stretches out to meet the sky in a seamless, pale blue line. Your home is a yacht, a round tint of felt and wood that can be packed up and moved in a matter of hours. Home is not a place, but a feeling, the warmth of the central fire, the smell of lamps too, the familiar weight of the woolen blankets. You don't remember learning to ride a horse any more than you remember learning to walk. It's just something you've always known how to do. The horse is an extension of your own body. You can feel the ripple of its muscles beneath you, sense its moods, guide it with the slightest pressure of your knees. Your people are the Kipchak Turks, a name that others whisper with a mix of fear and respect. You are nomads, warriors, and masters of the horse. Life is a rhythm dictated by the seasons. In the summer, the steppe is a sea of green and gold, dotted with wildflowers. You follow the herds, your days filled with chores that feel more like games. You learn to milk the mares, a tricky business that requires patience and a calm hand. The milk is then churned in a leather bag until it becomes kumis, a fizzy, slightly sour, and surprisingly potent drink that's the lifeblood of your tribe. That's a little detail most history books skip. The tang of fermented mare's milk on your tongue is the taste of your childhood. You also learn the hard-won wisdom of your ancestors. Which berries will kill you, which will cure a fever. How to read the stars to find your way back if you get lost chasing a stray goat. How to listen to the silence of the plains and know when it's a peaceful silence, and when it's the silence of a predator watching you from the tall grass. This is a life of profound freedom, but it is not a gentle one. Danger is woven into the very fabric of it. A sudden blizzard can wipe out a flock. A drought can turn the lush grasslands into a dust bowl. And then there are the other tribes. Your people are part of a larger confederation, but alliances are as shifting as the desert's hands. A friendly clan today could be a rival tomorrow, fighting over grazing rights or water sources. And there are the slavers. You've heard the stories told in hushed tones around the fire at night. Men on fast horses, appearing like ghosts on the horizon, snatching the unwary. They say they take you south, to lands of stone cities and suffocating heat, places you can't even imagine. This is where the official records, the dusty scrolls in far-off libraries, fall silent about your earliest years. In fact, historians to this day are still debating who you truly were. Most evidence points to you being a Kipchak, one of these proud, nomadic people of the steppe, but other accounts, more fragmented and less reliable, whisper that you might have been Armenian, or maybe Circassian, from the mountains. Your true origin is a secret the steppe has kept. It doesn't matter what they would later call you. Right now, you are simply a girl, with wind-tangled hair and eyes that are used to scanning vast distances. You are fierce, you are capable, and you are utterly unaware that your entire world is about to be stolen from you. As the sun begins to set, casting long, distorted shadows across the plains. An unusual stillness settles. The birds seem to have quieted their evening songs. The horses in the makeshift corral are restless, snorting and stamping their hooves for no apparent reason. You look to the horizon, to that endless, beautiful line where the world meets the sky, and you feel the first cold prickle of fear. The wind has changed its tune. It's no longer whispering secrets, it's humming a warning. The warning hum of the wind is suddenly ripped apart by a sound that doesn't belong. It's not the familiar, rhythmic canter of your tribe's horses returning from patrol. This is the sound of a storm of hooves, hundreds of them, drumming against the earth with a frantic, predatory urgency. Before the camp's defenders can even form a line, the raiders are upon you. They pour into the encampment like a dark tide, their shouts sharp and guttural in a language that grates against your ears. It is chaos distilled. The air fills with the smell of smoke as torches are thrown onto the felt walls of yurts. Your home, the center of your universe, goes up in a whoosh of flame. People are screaming, running. You see faces you have known your entire life contorted in fear and confusion. There's no time to think, no time to find your family. A rough hand grabs the back of your tunic, lifting you almost off your feet. You twist and struggle, your fists beating against a chest as hard as packed leather. But it's useless. You are a child of the wind. But in this moment, you are as helpless as a leaf caught in a gale. Another pair of hands binds your wrists behind your back with a coarse rope that bites into your skin. The ride is over as quickly as it began. It was never a battle, it was a harvest. As the sun rises, a sickly yellow-orange through the haze of smoke, it illuminates the wreckage of your world. The surviving members of your tribe are rounded up, a huddled, weeping mass of humanity. Families are torn apart with casual brutality. A mother's shriek is cut short. A child's cry goes unanswered. You are shoved into a line with other girls and young women, your eyes frantically searching the crowd for a familiar face, but finding only strangers united by the same terror. This is your first lesson in your new reality. You are no longer a person. You are cargo. This raid wasn't an act of war or tribal vengeance, it was business. A brutally efficient, highly profitable business that has flourished for centuries. You are a product, sourced from the vast, untamed steppes, and you are now beginning the long supply chain that will eventually deliver you to a wealthy consumer hundreds, or even thousands, of miles away. You and the other captives are roped together in a long, shuffling line. A single long rope is threaded through the bonds of every person, a cruel human chain ensuring no one can run without bringing down half a dozen others. It's a terribly clever system, one perfected over generations of this grim trade. This is a small, horrible detail of the logistics, how to efficiently march dozens of despairing people across a hostile landscape. You learn to walk at the pace of the slowest, to anticipate the stumbles of the person in front of you, to ignore the constant, chafing burn of the road. The journey south begins. You march from sunup to sundown, fueled by a handful of stale, gritty grain and sips of brackish water that taste of mud and despair. The landscape begins to change. The soft, forgiving sea of grass hardens into dusty, rock-strewn terrain. The familiar, sweeping vistas of your homeland are replaced by claustrophobic gullies and barren hills. Each step takes you further from everything you have ever known and loved. The men who guard you are silent and grim. They are not warriors celebrating a victory, they are merchants protecting their investment. They know these hidden paths, these secret wells, the shortcuts that avoid rival patrols. And here's something the scholars, centuries from now, will scratch their heads over. The exact truths of these slave caravans are still a matter of debate. They weren't marked on any official maps. They existed only in the memories of the men who profited from them. A dark web of trails crisscrossing the continent. Historians can only piece them together from fragmented merchant ledgers and the faint archaeological traces left behind. But the precise, agonizing path you now walk is largely lost to time. At night, you huddle together for warmth, a miserable flock of captured souls under a blanket of indifferent stars. You don't talk. There are no words for this. You just listen to the sound of quiet weeping and the crackle of the god's fire. You look back to the north, trying to see the glow of your burning home. But there is only darkness. The past has been erased. The future is a terrifying void. There is only this road, this long, punishing road of no return. The weeks of marching blur into a single, aching memory of dust and thirst. Then, one day, the air changes. The dry, earthy smell of the plains is replaced by something else. Something sharp, briny, then damp. It's the smell of salt and rotting fish. You are headed through the crowded, chaotic streets of a port city like Le Cafe, a bustling hub on the Crimean Peninsula controlled by generous merchants who have grown rich on this very trade. And then you see it. For the first time in your life, you sing the say, for a child of the endless, solid step. It is a terrifying and incomprehensible sight. It's not a river, not a lake that you can see the other side of. It is a living, breathing monster of grey, churning water that stretches to the edge of creation, meeting the sky in a horizon that moves. There's no time to comprehend it. You are prodded with sticks, pushed towards a looming wooden structure that groans and creaks as it rocks on the water. A ship. You are forced up a narrow, swaying plank, your bare feet slipping on the damp wood. Then a shove from behind, and you stumble into near total darkness. The hatch slammed shut, and the world is reduced to sound and smell. The smell hits you first, a physical blow. It's the stench of unwashed bodies packed impossibly tight, of vomit from those whose stomachs cannot handle the sea's lurching rhythm, and the foul, stagnant air of the bilge below. This is the hold of a slave ship, and it will be your world for what feels like an eternity. You are crammed in with dozens of others, so close you can feel the warmth of their skin, hear their shallow breaths. There is no room to lie down, only to sit with your knees drawn to your chest, pressed against strangers who share your fate. The ship begins to move, a nauseating, relentless rocking and swaying that never stops. The timbers of the hull groan around you like a dying beast. This is where your old identity, the last vestige of the girl from the steppe, is finally stripped away. One of the slavers comes down with a lantern, its flickering light casting monstrous shadows on the walls. HES doing a rough inventory. He doesn't ask for names. He doesn't care about your family, your tribe, or the songs you used to sing. He points a grubby finger at you, looks at your teeth, feels the muscle in your arm. To him, you are livestock, a commodity. The name your parents gave you, the name that meant something to you, is gone. It has no value here. It is erased, not with a formal decree, but with simple, brutal indifference. You are just another Kipchak girl, a label of origin and nothing more. This journey across the Black Sea was a well-oiled machine, a dark highway that for centuries connected the vast human reservoirs of the north to the wealthy markets of the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic world. Historians know the major routes, the main ports, the types of goods traded, but one thing they still passionately debate is the human cost. What were the mortality rates on a voyage like this? Slavers' records, if they were kept at all, were notoriously unreliable. They wouldn't meticulously note the deaths from disease, dehydration, or despair. Was it 1 in every 5 captives who perished in this suffocating darkness? 1 in 3? We will never truly know. All we know is that for many, the journey ended here. Their bodies unceremoniously dropped into the dark waters of the sea that gave the trade its name. You survive. Perhaps it is the resilience bred into you by the harshness of steppe life. Perhaps it is sheer dumb luck. You learn to sleep sitting up, to ignore the gnawing hunger, to block out the sounds of misery around you. You lose track of days, measuring time only by the brief moments when the hatch is thrown open and a bucket of water and some mouldy bread are lowered down. In those moments, you catch a glimpse of a blinding blue sky and feel a rush of air that, no matter how salty, tastes of life. Then, one day, the relentless rocking motion lessens. The ship's groans change their pitch. You hear new sounds from above, the shouting of many men in a new, unfamiliar tongue, the rattle of chains. The hatch is thrown open, and the sunlight is so intense it feels like a physical blow. You squeeze your eyes shut, raising a hand to shield them. The air that rushes in isn't the clean wind of the steppe, it's thick and heavy, laden with the smells of spices you've never encountered, of roasting meat, of dust, and of a million people packed into one place. You are prodded and pulled, stumbling back up the plank and onto solid ground. You stand blinking in the blinding sun, your legs unsteady after so long at sea. You are no longer on the edge of the known world. You are in its very heart. Alexandria, or perhaps Damascus, but most likely, the greatest city of them all. You have survived the journey. Now, you have to survive the destination. The city is an assault on your senses, a chaotic symphony that threatens to overwhelm you. After a lifetime of open plains and the quiet murmur of a small tribe, this is a different universe. This is Cairo, Al-Qaahira, the victorious, a sprawling metropolis of a million souls, the jewel of the Ayyubid Sultanate. Yuri marched through the streets, still chained, a spectacle for the locals. The streets are impossibly narrow, canyons of mud, brick and stone that rise several stories high, blotting out the sun. The air, thick with the Egyptian heat, is a potent cocktail of smells, cumin and coriander, from a spice merchant's store. The sweet perfume of jasmine wafting from a hidden courtyard, the sharp stench of donkey dung underfoot, sounds ricochet off the walls, the clang of a coppersmith's hammer, the sing-song cry of a water seller, the babble of 100 conversations in a language that sounds like rushing water to your ears. Everything is new. Everything is strange. You see people with skin darker than you thought possible, others with hair as red as the setting sun. Men in flowing robes and elaborate turbans haggle fiercely over goods you don't recognize. Women, draped in black, glide through the crowds like shadows, their eyes the only part of them visible. The sheer, overwhelming number of people is dizzying. You feel smaller, more insignificant than you ever did on the vast steppe. Your destination is a wakana, a merchant's inn built around a large central courtyard. But this is no resting place for weary travelers, it is a showroom for human beings. The slave market. Here, the brutal efficiency of the trade is laid bare. You are untied from the main rope, but your wrists remain bound. You and the other captives are washed, not for comfort, but for presentation. Your hair is combed. Your skin is oiled to give it a healthy sheen. You are given a simple, clean linen shift to wear. It is the grim preparation of a product before it's placed on the shelf. You are made to stand on a low wooden platform in the courtyard. The potential buyers are a mix of wealthy merchants, powerful officials, and the agents of even more powerful men. They walk around you, appraising you with the detached air of someone inspecting a horse or a piece of pottery. They check your teeth again, examine your hands and feet for signs of hard labor or disease, ask you to turn this way and that. Some of the men are coarse and their gazes make your skin crawl. Others are impassive, their faces unreadable. This is the ultimate moment of powerlessness. Your fate, your entire future, will be decided in the next few moments by the highest bidder. You might be sold to a kind-hearted merchant's wife as a domestic servant. You might be sold to a workshop for a life of grueling labor. Or you might be sold to a brothel, a fate you don't fully understand but can sense the horror of from the terrified whispers of the other girls. One of the more peculiar aspects of this transaction, a detail often lost in broad historical narratives, is the role of the professional slave brokers. These men were highly skilled, multilingual intermediaries. They would learn just enough of your native Kipchak tongue to ask basic questions your age, any skills you might have, and then translate that, often with a great deal of embellishment, to the Arabic-speaking buyers. They were the salesmen, polishing your features for a better price. Strong, they might say, pointing to your arms. Intelligent, they might claim, looking at your clear eyes, from a good, hardy stock. As the auction proceeds, a hush falls over the small crowd. A new figure has entered the courtyard. A chief, not a merchant, but an emissary. You can tell by the quality of his robes and the deferential way the slave broker bows to him. He doesn't haggle or inspect the merchandise up close. He scans the line of captives with a practiced, discerning eye. A chief not looking for a laborer or a concubine. A chief looking for something specific, a certain spot, a quality that can't be measured by the health of one's teeth. His eyes stop on you. For a moment, you meet his gaze. You don't know what he sees. Maybe it's the defiance that still smolders behind your fear. Maybe it's a flash of the intelligence that hasn't yet been crushed out of you. Maybe he sees the ghost of the wild. 3 steps still clinging to you. The historical record doesn't tell us what made him choose you. The official chronicles state that the Sultan, al-Sultan, was looking to expand his personal retinue of Mamluk slave soldiers, but also to enrich his harem with exotic beauties. Historians still argue about the primary motivation for this specific purchase. Was it purely political, a desire for loyal, for unborn retainers with no local family ties, or was there a more personal, aesthetic element to it? The emissary says a few quiet words to the broker. A bag of coins is exchanged. No shouting, no dramatic bidding war. It is a quiet, decisive transaction that seals your fate. The broker unties your hands. You are no longer his property. You belong to someone else now, someone incredibly powerful. You are led away from the noise and squalor of the market, through cleaner, wider streets, and end up a long, winding road. Ahead of you, dominating the skyline, is a colossal fortress perched atop a hill, its limestone walls glowing honey gold in the afternoon sun. It is a city within a city, a symbol of absolute power, the Citadel of Cairo, built by the legendary Saladin. You are leaving the world of common men behind. You are about to enter the cage of the king. Passing through the massive, fortified gates of the Citadel is like entering another realm. The chaotic sounds of Cairo fade behind you, replaced by a new set of noises: the rhythmic marching of guards in polished armor, the kneading of magnificent Arabian horses in the royal stables, the distant, muffled sound of courtly music. This is the nerve center of an empire that stretches from Syria to the Upper Nile. You are led not to the barracks or the kitchens, but to a section of the palace that is famously beautiful and notoriously guarded, the harem. The word itself conjures images of lazy, opulent decadence, but the reality is far more complex. The harem is not just the Sultan's private quarters, it's a vast and intricate social ecosystem, a political institution, and a self-contained world governed by its own strict rules and hierarchies. Your arrival is quiet and unceremonious. You are handed over by the Sultan's emissary to a stern, older woman, the chief eunuch's deputy. You are now inside the golden cage. The first thing that strikes you is the sheer, breathtaking beauty of the place. Sunlight streams through intricately carved wooden screens, known as mashrobi, casting latticed patterns on cool marble floors. The air is fragrant with incense and flowers. Fountains burble in hidden courtyards, their gentle splashing a constant, soothing backdrop. But this beauty is deceptive. It is the beautiful plumage of a very dangerous bird. This is a world run by women and for women, but under the absolute authority of one man, the Sultan. You are brought to the hammam, the bathish, for a second, more thorough cleansing. This time it is not about making you presentable for sale, but about washing away the last traces of the outside world. Your simple linen shift is taken away, and you are given new clothes of fine Egyptian cotton. The fabric is softer than anything you have ever felt. You are assigned a small, clean chamber, shared with a few other new arrivals. Here, you begin the process of acculturation, or rather, indoctrination. You must learn a new language, Arabic, the language of the court and the Quran. You must learn a new religion, Islam. You must learn new customs: how to eat, how to dress, how to comport yourself with the proper degree of modesty and grace. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a requirement for survival. Your old life is now a distant dream, this is your reality. The Sultan you serve is also Liar. He is not a man you see. He is a presence, a force that dictates every aspect of your life. He is the grandson of Saladin's brother, a ruler burdened by the legacy of his famous family and beset by rivals on all sides, including from within his own Ayyubid clan. He is a shrewd, often ruthless, and deeply suspicious man. His policy, which would inadvertently set the stage for your own rise, was to rely not on treacherous relatives or powerful Arab tribes, but on his Mamluks. The Mamluks were the military elite of the empire. Like you, they were slave boys, mostly Kipchak Turks, purchased young and brought to Cairo. They were housed in barracks on an island in the Nile, hence their name. The Bori Mamluks from there, the river. There, they were converted to Islam, trained rigorously in the arts of war, and educated in the ways of the court. They had no family ties in Egypt, no local loyalties. Their only allegiance was to the man who had bought and freed them, the Sultan. They were his personal military household, the bedrock of his power. And you, in the harem, are the female equivalent. You are here to provide comfort, beauty, and, most importantly, heirs who would also have no dangerous Egyptian family connections on their mother's side. Here's a small, curious detail about life in the Ayyubid harem that has often overlooked: the importance of proficiency. It wasn't enough to just be beautiful. The women of the harem were often highly educated. They were taught to read, write, recite poetry, play musical instruments, and engage in witty, intelligent conversation. The Sultan was an educated man. He did not want an empty-headed doll. He wanted a companion. This was your opportunity, your only path forward. While some girls might focus only on their looks, you dive into your studies. Your mind, sharpened by the survival instincts of the steppe, is a quick and thirsty sponge. The structure of this world, Saladin's Citadel, is a testament to the Ayyubid mindset. Historians still debate the extent of Saladin's personal involvement in the final design versus that of his successors, but its purpose is clear. It was designed for defense, not just from foreign invaders like the Crusaders, but from the city of Cairo itself. The rulers were often a foreign Turco-Kurdish military elite ruling over a native Egyptian Arab-speaking population. The citadel was a statement: we are here. We are in charge. But we are separate from you. You are now part of that ruling, foreign-born class. A slave, yes, but a slave of the Sultan, which places you, paradoxically, above most of the freeborn people in the city below. You are no longer on the bottom rung of society. You have simply been moved to a different ladder altogether, one that is played on a much more dangerous board, and you are determined to climb. Life in the harem is a masterclass in subtlety. There are no drawn swords here, no open declarations of war. The weapons are whispers, exchanged glances, calculated gestures of favor, and carefully placed rumors. It is a silent, elegant, and utterly ruthless battlefield, and you learn its rules with the same desperate focus you once used to track game on the steppe. Your days fall into a structured routine: morning prayers, followed by lessons in Arabic script and grammar. Afternoons are for the arts. You learn to play the oud, a pear-shaped lute whose melancholic music fills the halls of the palace. You are taught poetry, memorizing the great verses of Arab literature. You learn the intricate rules of court etiquette: when to speak and when to remain silent, how to bow, how to serve a drink, how to walk without making a sound. Every action is freighted with meaning. The harem is a pyramid, and at the very top, for now, is the Sultan's first wife and his established concubines. Below them are the favored women, those who have caught his eye. Then there are the rest, a sea of anonymous, beautiful faces like yourself, all hoping for a chance to ascend, and at the bottom are the servants, the eunuchs, and the functionaries who keep the whole system running. Your position is tenuous. You are property, but you are valuable property. You are cared for, fed well, and dressed in beautiful clothes, but you are still a captive. You learn to observe, You watch the other women, how they interact with each other. You see the fleeting jealousy in a girl's eyes when another is summoned by the Sultan. You notice the small, secret alliances formed between women who come from the same region, speaking their native tongue in hushed tones when they think no one is listening. You learn to identify the key players, the formidable head eunuch who controls all access to the Sultan's chambers, the Sultan's mother, if she is still alive and at court, who often wields immense informal power, the established favorites who see every new girl as a potential threat. One of the most surprising things you discover is the economic power some of these women wield. This wasn't just a place of gilded idleness. High-ranking women in the harem could own property, run businesses in the city through agents, and control vast personal fortunes. They were major patrons of architecture, commissioning mosques and schools. This is a crucial point that is often missed in popular portrayals of the harem. It wasn't just a prison, it was a parallel court with its own form of influence and finance. For an intelligent woman, it was a place of immense, if constrained, opportunity. You excel in your studies. Your Arabic becomes fluent. Your poetry recitation is moving. And your mind is sharp. But you understand that academic skill alone is not enough. You need allies. You are careful. You are patient. You don't engage in the petty squabbles and gossip that occupy many of the other girls. You are helpful to the women who serve you, earning their quiet loyalty. You are respectful to the older, more established concubines, learning from their experience rather than challenging their position. You are building a reputation, not as the most beautiful or the most seductive, but as the most intelligent, the most reliable, and the most graceful. Here, in the heart of the empire, you are exposed to the world in a way you never could have been on the steppe. Merchants, diplomats, and scholars from across the known world come to the citadel. News arrives daily of events in distant lands, of the Mongol hordes threatening the eastern borders of the Islamic world, of the shifting politics of the Crusader states on the coast, of intrigue in the Caliph's court in Baghdad. You absorb all of it, piecing together a map of the world, not of landscapes, but of power. There's an ongoing debate among historians about the degree of political awareness among the women of the Ayyubid harem. Were they truly isolated from the world of men's affairs, as some traditional sources suggest, or were they, as revisionist historians argue, deeply enmeshed in court politics, acting as informal advisors, spies, and power brokers? The evidence is tantalizing but inconclusive. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. While they might not have sat in on formal council meetings, they were privy to the Sultan's private moods, his frustrations, his fears. A sharp woman could learn more from a signed, weary comment over dinner than from a dozen official decrees. You are playing the long game. You know that beauty fades, that the Sultan's fancy is fickle, but intelligence, knowledge, and a network of loyal supporters, these are assets that can endure. You are not just trying to survive the golden cage. You are learning how to become its master. And you wait, with the infinite patience of a hunter, for the moment when the Sultan will finally turn his gaze from the other, more obvious flowers in his garden, and notice the quiet, strong tree that has been growing in their midst. The moment, when it comes, is not as dramatic as you might have imagined. There is no grand presentation, no sudden, fateful encounter in a moonlit garden. It happens during one of the Sultan's rare moments of relaxation. Al-Ayyub is a man carrying the weight of an empire, constantly looking over his shoulder for the glint of a traitor's knife. His court is a nest of vipers, scheming cousins, ambitious emirs, and the ever-present threat of the Crusaders. His moments of peace are few and precious. He often seeks refuge from these pressures in the refined atmosphere of his harem. One evening, he calls for music to soothe his frayed nerves. A girl is brought forward to play the oud. She is beautiful, her technique is flawless, but her music is empty, a perfect but soulless recitation. The Sultan, a connoisseur of the arts, listens with a weary impatience. He dismisses her with a wave of his hand. The head eunuch, who has observed your diligence and perhaps sees in you a way to please his master, quietly suggests another. You are summoned. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs, but your outward demeanor is the picture of calm you have so carefully cultivated. You bow low, your eyes fixed on the intricate patterns of the carpet. You do not look at him directly. You have learned that lesson well. They say you have a mind as well as a voice, he says, his tone laced with a tired cynicism. Let's see. You are given an OUD. You take a moment, letting the silence in the room settle. You don't launch into a flashy, complex piece designed to show off your skill. Instead, you begin with a simple, haunting melody from your homeland. A song of the wind and the endless grass. It is music filled with a deep, aching nostalgia. A sound that is alien and captivating in this opulent Egyptian palace. When you finish, the room is still. The Sultan does not speak for a long time. You keep your head bowed. Wait. Where did you learn that, he asks. His voice softer now, stripped of its harsh, defensive edge. It is a song of my people, my lord. You reply in your now fluent, carefully modulated Arabic. A memory of a place that no longer exists for me. This is your opening. He is intrigued. He asks you about the steps, about the Kipchoge. He is a military man, and he knows your people as fierce warriors, the source of his elite Mamluk soldiers. But he knows them only as a concept, as a recruitment pool. You speak to him of the culture, the customs, the feeling of that life. You are not just a pretty face, you are a window into the world that produced the very soldiers his power depends on. The conversation shifts. He is a sharp, intelligent man, and he quickly moves from your past to your present. He tests you, asking your opinion on a line of poetry, on a piece of news from Syria. You answer with the intelligence and insight you have been honing for months. You are careful not to be presumptuous, phrasing your thoughts as humble observations. But the clarity of your logic and the depth of your understanding are unmistakable. For Sultan al-Salih, this is a revelation. He is surrounded by sycophants who tell him what they think he wants to hear, and by rivals who challenge his every move. He is desperately lonely in his power. In you, he finds something new, a mind that can meet his own, a person he can actually talk to. This becomes your new role. You are summoned more and more frequently, not always for the pleasures of the flesh, but for conversation. You become his confidant. He speaks to you of his frustrations with his Ayyubid relatives, whom he trusts so little that he has confined many of them to the citadel. He talks of his grand project, the Bori Mamluks, his slave army that he is building on Rhoda Island in the Nile, a force loyal only to him, designed to replace the treacherous old guard. A specific, often debated detail is just how much influence you had at this early stage. The chronicles, written by men, tend to downplay the political role of harem women. They might mention the Sultan's affection for you, but they are unlikely to record that he listened to your advice on matters of state. Yet, later events prove that you were not just a passive listener. You were learning, absorbing, and understanding the complex mechanics of power. The more nuanced historical view is that al-Salih, a man who trusted almost no one, saw in you a kindred spirit. You were, like his Mamluks, an outsider. You had no family in Egypt, no local allegiances. Your loyalty, your very existence, was tied to him and him alone. This made you trustworthy in a way no high-born Arab or Kurdish princess could ever be. He begins to trust your judgment not just on poetry, but on people. You have learned to be a shrewd observer of the subtle currents of the court. You can see the ambition in a courtier's eyes, the envy hidden behind a polite smile. You become his eyes and ears in the parts of the palace he cannot see. The other women in the harem watch this development with a mixture of awe and terror. You have broken the mold. You are no longer just another concubine in the queue. You have become a fixture, a necessity to the Sultan's daily life. You have captured not just his fancy, but his mind. And in the treacherous world of the Ayyubid court, that is a far more powerful and lasting prize. Your status in the harem is no longer ambiguous. You have ascended. You are the Sultan's acknowledged favorite. And with that position comes a new name. The Sultan, in a gesture of profound affection and a testament to your unique value, bestows a title upon you. He calls you Shajar al-Durr. It translates to Tree of Pearls. It is a name of exquisite poetry and immense significance. Pearls were the ultimate luxury, rare and precious. A tree is a symbol of life, stability, and growth. To be a tree of pearls is to be a source of constant, living preciousness. It is not the name of a fleeting fancy, it is the name of a treasured institution. From this moment on, the nameless girl from the Kipchak steppe is gone forever, replaced by a woman whose very name is a statement of her worth in the eyes of the most powerful man in the land. With the name comes a change in your material circumstances. You are moved to a lavish suite of rooms within the harem, attended by your own servant. You are showered with gifts, silks from China, jewels from India, perfumes from Persia. But these are merely the outer trappings of your new position. The real prize is the access and influence that come with it. You are now a recognized power player within the palace. Courtiers who once ignored you now bow deeply. The chief eunuch, who once held your fate in his hands, now seeks your opinion. Your relationship with Sultan al-Salid deepens. He is a man who has been shaped by a difficult past. He spent years as a political hostage in the fortress of Cairo, held captive by his own relatives. This experience left him paranoid and distrustful, but it also made him a survivor. He sees the same survivor's instinct in you. You are two outsiders who have fought their way to the center of power. This shared experience forges a bond between you that goes beyond that of a master and his favored slave. You become indispensable to his rule in quiet, unofficial ways. He values your perspective on the Mamluk. He is their creator, but you are of their people. You understand the Kipchak psyche, the fierce pride, the unyielding loyalty to a worthy leader, the contempt for weakness. You can explain their occasional boisterousness or their internal rivalries in a way that his Arab advisors cannot. You are the cultural bridge between the Sultan and the human weapons he has created. This is a subtle but critical role. The Bahri Mamluks are the foundation of his power, but they are a double-edged sword. A loyal Mamluk force is an unstoppable army. A disloyal one is the most dangerous threat imaginable, for they are the ones with the weapons. Inside the very walls of the palace, keeping them loyal is the Sultan's single most important task, and you help him do it. One of the more intimate, and historically debated, aspects of your relationship is the degree to which you manage the Sultan's health. Al-Salih was not a well man. He suffered from a serious illness, likely tuberculosis, which left him with a persistent, hacking cough and bouts of fever. The chronicles mention his poor health, but it's in the private sphere of the harem that this would have been managed daily. You would have been the one ensuring he took his medicines, that he rested, that his environment was kept clean and calm. You transformed from a companion into a caregiver, further cementing your importance in his life. This is a cold, hard fact of power. A ruler's health is a matter of state security. Your role in preserving it made you a guardian of the realm's stability. The name Tree of Pearls was not just a romantic nickname, it began to appear in more formal contexts. This is a fascinating rare occurrence. For a concubine's pet name to be used in any semi-official capacity was a sign of her extraordinary status. Some historians argue that this was a deliberate strategy by al-Salih. By elevating you, a woman with no family ties, to the treacherous Ayyubid clan, he was further insulating himself from his relatives and signaling that the future of his dynasty would be built on a new foundation, one of Mamluk loyalty and personal affection, not on ancient, unreliable blood feuds. You use your newfound influence wisely. You don't become a tyrant within the harem. Instead, you build a network of loyalties. You remember the girls you arrived with, the servants who were kind to you. You reward loyalty and competence, creating a stable, undeficient household around you. You begin to patronize small building projects, following the tradition of high status women, but always in the Sultan's name. never your own. You are careful to never appear as a rival to his power, but always as its most steadfast supporter. You have a new name, a new status, and a new level of influence, but you are still, legally, a slave. You are the tree of pearls, but the tree is planted in the Sultan's garden, and he is its sole owner. You have reached the highest possible position for a woman of your status. To go any further would require something that, until now, has seemed impossible. It would require a miracle, and that miracle is about to arrive. The miracle arrives in the most traditional and yet most transformative way possible. You become pregnant. In the world of dynastic politics, this is the ultimate game changer. For a sultan, a son is not just a child, he is a successor, a continuation of the dynasty, a guarantee that the power he has fought so hard to maintain will not dissipate upon his death. For a concubine, a son is the key to an entirely new existence. It is the one thing that can elevate her beyond her station, transforming her from a favored companion into the mother of a future king. Your pregnancy is treated as a matter of state. You are attended by the finest physicians, your every need catered to. The atmosphere in the harem shifts dramatically. The jealousy of the other women is now tinged with a grudging respect, even fear. You are no longer just a temporary favorite, you are carrying the future. Sultan al-Salih is ecstatic. His health is failing, and the question of succession weighs heavily on him. He has other sons from other wives, but his relationship with them is complicated by the endless scheming of their maternal relatives within the Ayyubid clan. A son from Eurasian al-Durr, the woman with no family, the ultimate outsider whose loyalty is to him alone, is the perfect solution. This child will have no dangerous uncles or cousins whispering in his ear, plotting to use him as a pawn in their own power games. The boy's only power base will be his father and the Mamluks who serve him. The birth is a tense affair, but ultimately successful. You deliver a healthy baby boy. He is named Cairo. The Sultan's joy knows no bounds. He holds his son, this symbol of his legacy, and looks at you with a new kind of reverence. You are not just his tree of pearls anymore, you are the mother of his heir. And in a move that stuns the court and solidifies your position beyond any doubt, he does two things. First, he formally, legally, frees you. The manumission of a slave is a significant act. With a simple declaration, the legal chains that have bound you since you were stolen from the steppe are broken. You are no longer property. You are a free woman. It is a moment of profound personal victory, the culmination of a journey from the absolute depths of powerlessness to legal autonomy. But he doesn't stop there. In an even more radical and unprecedented move, Sultan al-Salih Ayyub marries you. This is a bombshell. Sultans did not typically marry their former slave concubines. No matter how favored they were, they might keep them as cherished companions. They might free them. But marriage was usually reserved for strategic alliances with the daughters of other powerful rulers or noble families. To marry a foreign-born, ex-slave Kipchak girl was a massive break with tradition. It was a public declaration that you were not just his wife, but his queen in all but name. This decision sends shockwaves through the Ayyubid elite. It is a snub to every noble family who had hoped to marry their daughter to the Sultan. It is a clear signal that the old ways are over. The Sultan is turning his back on his own class and placing his trust, and his dynastic future, in the hands of the two groups of people he created, his Mamluk soldiers and his Mamluk wife. Now, your life changes entirely. You are no longer confined to the harem. As the Sultan's wife, you had a formal, public role. You command a massive household, control a significant budget, and act as a major patron of art and architecture. You commission the construction of a tomb for your son and for yourself, a common practice for royal women ensuring their legacy. Here's a fascinating bit of trivia. The mausoleum you began to build for the Ayyubid dynasty is still standing in Cairo today. It's a tangible link to your presence, a stone and marble monument to the power you began to wield. Your marriage creates a unique power structure at the heart of the empire. It is a triumvirate: the ailing Sultan al-Salih, the brilliant Mamluk commander Baybars, And you, Shajar al-Durr, the Sultan's wife and most trusted confidant. There is some debate among historians about the formal nature of this arrangement. Was it an official power-sharing structure, or an informal one born of necessity and trust, the chronicles? Of course, don't frame it this way. They focus on the Sultan as the sole authority. But the reality, pieced together from later events, suggests a deep, collaborative partnership. The Sultan had the legitimacy, the Mamluks had the military might, and you had the intelligence, the intimate access, and the absolute trust of the ruler. You have achieved the impossible. You are a free woman. You are the Sultan's wife. You are the mother of a potential heir. You have security, status, and influence beyond your wildest dreams. You have won the game. But history is not a game that ends. A new board is being set, with stakes higher than you can possibly imagine. Far away in Europe, a pious and determined French king is listening to the Pope's call for a new crusade. He is gathering an army, building a fleet, and setting his sights on the one prize that would guarantee his fame for all eternity: Egypt. The personal happiness and security you have fought so hard to win are about to collide with the grand, impersonal forces of history. Your marriage solidifies your position, but it also throws you directly into the turbulent waters of imperial politics. Sultan al-Salih's health continues to decline, and as his physical strength wanes, his reliance on you grows. He begins to treat you not just as a wife and confidant, but as a political partner. This is a subtle and gradual transition, one not marked by any official decree, but by 1,000 small, private moments. When the Sultan is too ill to sit through long meetings with his ministers and generals, he starts sending you in his stead. At first, your role is simply to listen and report back to him. You sit behind a screen, a silent, unseen presence, while the men of the court discuss matters of state. They are aware of your presence, and initially, many of them are dismissive. A woman, a former slave, listening to their deliberations, it is an affront to their pride. But they underestimate you. You are not just a passive conduit of information. You listen with the sharp, analytical mind you have so carefully honed. You absorb the details of troop movements, grain prices, and diplomatic correspondence. When you report back to al-Salih, you don't just repeat what was said. You offer your own insights, your own reading of the situation. You can identify the hidden ambition in a governor's report, the note of fear in a dispatch from the frontier. Al-Salih, a man weary of the flattery and deceit of his court, finds your clear-eyed assessments invaluable. He begins to actively seek your counsel. What did you think of the emir's proposal, he might ask, after you relayed the day's business? Do you trust the messenger from Damascus? This evolution of your role is one of the most remarkable and historically debated aspects of your life. How much real power did you wield during this period? Traditionalist historians, relying on the official court chronicles that were written to uphold the patriarchal order, portray you as a loyal wife, a regent-in-waiting at best. They suggest you were merely the Sultan's mouthpiece, but other evidence, including your own later actions, suggests a much more active and collaborative role. It's more likely that you and al-Salih formed a true political partnership. He was the public face of authority, the legitimate ruler. You were the chief operating officer, managing the day-to-day flow of information and advising on strategy from behind the scenes. You become the gatekeeper. Anyone who wants to reach the Sultan must first go through you. You decide which petitions he sees, which emissaries are granted an audience, which reports are prioritized. This gives you immense, albeit indirect, power. You can advance the careers of those you deem loyal and competent, and you can sideline those you see as a threat to the Sultan's regime and, by extension, your own security. You also become a crucial link to the Bahri Mamluks. You speak their native Kipchak tongue. You understand their culture. When they have grievances or concerns, they find it easier to approach you than to navigate the formal, rigid protocols of the Arab court. You become their patron and their advocate. ensuring their needs are met and their loyalty to the Sultan remains absolute. This relationship with the military elite will prove to be the most important asset you possess. Here's a curious detail of court life: you would have had to master the art of the official document. In the Ayyubid bureaucracy, nothing was real until it was written down and stamped with the Sultan's seal. As al-Salih grew weaker, you likely began to oversee the drafting of his decrees, while he would give the final approval. You would have been involved in the wording, ensuring the instructions were clear and unambiguous. Some historians have even speculated, though it is impossible to prove, that you learned to replicate his signature, his HRA, for minor documents when he was too ill to hold a pen. This is where the whispers of power begin to solidify into the practice of it. You are walking a knife's edge. You are wielding enormous influence, but you must do so with the utmost discretion. You must never appear to be overstepping your bounds. Every action you take is framed as being in service to the Sultan, an extension of his will. Your power is real, but it is entirely dependent on him. If he were to die, your legal authority would vanish in an instant. Your son, Kalu, is still just a child. The regency would be contested. And you, the foreign-born ex-slave, would be incredibly vulnerable. And so, you and al-Salih work together, a fragile, brilliant team, holding the empire together through sheer force of will. You are shoring up defenses, managing the finances, and keeping the Mamluks happy. You are at the very center of the work, every strand of information passing through your hands. You have learned how the empire works, not just in theory, but in practice. You have mastered the intricate dance of Ayyubid politics. You don't know it yet, but you are in the final stages of an apprenticeship that is about to prepare you for the greatest crisis of your life. The whispers of power you now command are about to become a roar, while you are mastering the art of statecraft in the quiet, incense-filled rooms of the Cairo Citadel. A storm is gathering in the west. This storm has a name: King Louis IX of France. The news arrives in trickles at first, brought by Venetian and Genoese merchants who trade in both goods and information. They speak of a great army being assembled in France. The king, they say, is a man of singular piety and fierce determination. He has taken the cross. He intends to launch a new crusade. At first, this is just another piece of intelligence to be analyzed. Another potential threat in a world full of them. The Crusader states, the remnants of previous invasions, have clung to the Levantine coast for decades. There have been skirmishes, battles, and truces. The Frankish problem is a chronic but, for the most, manageable issue. But the reports grow more detailed and more alarming. This is not to be a small expedition to reinforce the struggling Crusader castles in Syria. Louis's ambition is far grander. He has spent years and a staggering fortune, a significant portion of the entire revenue of the French kingdom, to build a massive fleet and equip a professional army. His target is not Jerusalem, at least not directly. He is a student of history, and he understands that the key to the Holy Land is Egypt. The wealth of the Nile finances the Muslim armies. The port of Damietta is the gateway to Cairo. To conquer Egypt is to break the back of Islamic power in the region. You and al-Salih listen to these reports with growing concern. The Sultan, his body racked by illness, understands the gravity of the threat. He knows his own Ayyubid family is too fractured and unreliable to mount a united defense. His cousins ruling in Damascus and Aleppo might even see a Crusader attack on Egypt as an opportunity to advance their own ambitions. His only hope, the only force he trusts to defend the realm, are his Bori Mamluks. The scale of Louis IX's preparations is unprecedented. This isn't a haphazard collection of feudal lords seeking plunder. Louis is a king, and he is bringing the full administrative and financial power of a centralized European monarchy to bear. This is a crucial distinction that separated the Seventh Crusade from many of its predecessors. It was a well-funded, meticulously planned, royal-led invasion. As the French fleet gathers at Cyprus, the final staging ground, the threat becomes undeniable. Spies report the numbers thousands of knights in full plate armor, tens of thousands of infantry and crossbowmen, and a fleet of nearly 1,800 ships. It is one of the largest amphibious forces ever assembled in the medieval world. Panic begins to ripple through Cairo. The memory of the Fifth Crusade, just a few decades earlier, is still fresh. In that invasion, the Crusaders had captured the port city of Damietta and held it for 2 years. A deep and humiliating wound. The thought of it happening again, on an even grander scale, terrifies the populace. In the palace, you are a center of calm in this growing storm, while officials in Damietta panic. You work alongside the ailing Sultan to prepare for war. Orders are dispatched to fortify the coastal defenses, especially at Damietta. The Egyptian fleet is mobilized. The Mamluk regiments are put on high alert, their ranks swelled with new recruits. This is where your unique position becomes invaluable. The Mamluks, mostly Kipchak Turks like yourself, are about to face an army of French knights. There is a cultural and military gulf between these two warrior elites. You, who understand the Mamluk mindset, can help the Sultan's Arab advisors grasp their strengths. The Mamluks are not a feudal levy, they are a professional standing army. Trained from childhood in horsemanship and archery, they are masters of mobile warfare, of feigned retreats and devastating counterattacks. You help ensure that the strategies being developed play to these strengths. One of the fascinating what-ifs that historians still debate is what would have happened if al-Salih had been healthy. A strong, vigorous Sultan at the head of his army might have intimidated Louis or fought him to a standstill on the beaches. But al-Salih is dying. He can barely sit on a horse. His failing health is the single greatest weakness of the empire at its moment of greatest peril. Knowing he cannot lead the army himself, he makes a courageous decision. He will travel to the front line, to a fortified camp at the town of Mansoura, south of Damietta on the Nile. He knows his presence is essential to inspire the troops and to maintain unity. It is a journey that will almost certainly kill him, but he sees it as his sacred duty. And he makes another crucial decision. He will not leave you behind in Cairo. He needs you with him. You are the only person he trusts to manage his affairs, to ensure his orders are carried out, and to hold the government together while he is at the front. Your son, Khalil, is left in the safety of the citadel. You pack your things, not silks and jewels, but paper, ink, and the Sultan's seal. You are going to war, not as a warrior, but as the shadow ruler of a kingdom under siege. The great ships of the Crusaders are now visible on the horizon, their sails like a forest of white trees moving across the blue water. The storm has broken. The journey north is a somber procession. The Sultan travels on a litter, too weak to ride, the curtains drawn to hide his condition from the soldiers. You travel nearby, a quiet, veiled figure whose presence signifies the gravity of the situation. You set up your base at Mansoura, the victorious, a town strategically located behind a fork in the Nile, a natural defensive barrier against an invading army coming from the coast. It is here that the fate of Egypt will be decided. The news from the front arrives swiftly, and it is disastrous. In early June 1249, the French fleet appears off the coast of Damietta. The sheer size of the armada is demoralizing. The Ayyubid garrison in the city, commanded by the elderly Emir Shajar al-Din, is supposed to hold the beachhead and prevent a landing. But the French knights, led by a reckless and impatient King Louis IX, don't even wait for the whole fleet to arrive. They leap from their landing craft into the shallow water, a wall of steel and piety, and charge the beach. The Egyptian forces are stunned by the ferocity and speed of the assault. A chaotic and short-lived battle ensues on the sands. The Emir Shajar al-Din, fearing his forces would be outflanked and trapped, makes a fateful and controversial decision. He orders a retreat. He pulls his army out of Damietta, across a bridge of boats to the west bank of the Nile, and then, in a fit of panic, orders the bridge destroyed. The result is a catastrophe. The city of Damietta, with its formidable walls, its vast stores of weapons and food, is abandoned to the Crusaders without a real fight. The garrison and a significant portion of the civilian population flee in disarray, leaving the city gates open. King Louis IX walks into one of the most heavily fortified cities in the Muslim world and captures it for the price of a brief skirmish on the beach. When this news reaches your camp at Mansoura, it hits like a physical blow. The army is in a state of shock. The road to Cairo is now dangerously exposed. The Sultan is enraged. From his sickbed, he orders the execution of more than 50 of the commanders who abandoned their posts. It is a brutal, desperate measure to restore discipline and ensure that cowardice will not be tolerated. You are at the center of this crisis. While the Sultan rages and coughs, his life for straining away, you are the one who must maintain a semblance of order. You work with the remaining loyal emirs, like the brilliant Mamluk commander Baybars, to rally the demoralized troops. You help draft the dispatches that are sent out across the empire, calling for reinforcements and downplaying the extent of the disaster. The Crusaders, meanwhile, make a surprising error. Instead of pressing their advantage and marching on Cairo immediately after taking Damietta, they hesitate. This is a point that military historians have analyzed for centuries. Why did Louis wait? The primary reason was the annual flooding of the Nile. From late June through the autumn, the river swells, turning the delta into an impassable swamp. A march south would have been logistical suicide. So Louis and his army settled into Damietta for a long, hot summer, waiting for the waters to recede. This delay is a gift from God. It gives you and the Egyptian army precious months to regroup and prepare. The Mamluk forces, the core of the army, swell in number as riders from across the empire answer the call to jihad. The new defensive line at Mansoura is strengthened. The town becomes a fortified camp, the last bastion standing between the most powerful army in Christendom and the capital of Egypt. During this long, tense summer, the Sultan's health deteriorates completely. He is now confined to his tent, barely conscious at times. His command is theoretical. The day-to-day running of the war effort, the constant flow of decisions required to keep an army in the field, falls increasingly to a small, unofficial council of 3, the loyal Emir aka Al-Durr, who, despite his initial failure, was too experienced to be discarded, the dynamic Mamluk general Baybars. And you. This is where your apprenticeship in power becomes a master's degree. You are no longer just an advisor. You are part of the command structure. You listen to intelligence reports from spies who slip in and out of the Crusader camp. You oversee the logistics, the endless, unglamorous work of ensuring the soldiers are fed, their weapons are maintained, and their pay arrives on time. Here's a small but vital detail: control of the treasury was a key instrument of power. Your involvement in logistics meant you had a hand on the purse strings, a role that gave you immense practical authority. The soldiers, especially the Mamluks, come to see you not just as the Sultan's wife, but as a steadfast presence, a symbol of the regime's will to resist. While the Sultan fades, you remain. You are the constant, the calm, intelligent mind working tirelessly in the command tent. The fate of the dynasty, and of Egypt itself, now rests not on the Ayyubid clan, but on a dying sultan and his former slave wife, holed up in a riverside town, waiting for the floodwaters to recede and the final, decisive battle to begin. The autumn air grows cooler. The Nile, that great giver of life and bringer of floods, begins to recede. The ground firms up. In the Crusader camp at Damietta, there is a renewed sense of purpose. The time for the final push has come. In your camp at Mansoura, the tension is a palpable thing, a metallic taste in the back of your throat. The army is as ready as it will ever be. But inside the royal tent, a different, more intimate battle is being lost. Sultan al-Ayyub is dying. The physicians have done all they can. They shake their heads, their faces grim. It is a matter of days, perhaps hours. He lies on his bed, a fragile skeleton, his breath a shallow, rattling sound in his chest. His mind drifts in and out of focus. In moments of clarity, he speaks to you. his voice a dry whisper. He gives you his final instructions. Not about the grand strategy of the coming battle, but about what you must do when he is gone. He knows the terrible danger the state will be in at the moment of his death. The news would shatter the army's morale on the eve of the most important battle of their lives. It would create a power vacuum that his treacherous Ayyubid relatives would rush to fill. The emirs and Mamluk commanders, without their sultan to unite them, might fall to infighting. The entire war effort, the very kingdom itself, could collapse overnight. No one must know, he rasps, his hand gripping yours with surprising strength. You must hold it all together, for Cairo, for the Empire. He is asking you to do the impossible to conceal the death of a king. Then, on the night of November 22, Shajar, with you by his side, Sultan al-Sultan dies. The sound of his last breath seems to echo in the sudden, profound silence of the tent. For a moment, you are not a queen or a strategist. You are just a woman who has lost her husband, the man who freed you, married you, and trusted you. There is a brief, sharp stab of personal grief, a wave of desolation. But there is no time for that. The weight of his final command, the weight of the entire kingdom, settles onto your shoulders. You look at the still form on the bed. The Sultan is dead, but the Sultanate must live. You straighten your back and summon the chief physician and the head eunuch, the two other people in the tent who know the truth. You look them in the eye, your gaze firm, leaving no room for argument. You explain the situation with cold, brutal clarity. The Sultan's death must remain the most closely guarded secret in the world. As far as anyone outside this tent is concerned, the Sultan is still alive, but simply too ill to be seen. This is the moment of your ultimate transformation. You are no longer acting on the Sultan's authority. You are seizing it. It is a decision of breathtaking audacity, an act of high treason under normal circumstances. But these are not normal circumstances. This is an act of profound, desperate patriotism. The logistics of the deception are terrifyingly complex. First, the Sultan's body. It must be smuggled out of the camp. Under the cover of darkness, you have his body washed, shrouded, and placed in a wooden chest. You arrange for it to be secretly transported by boat up the Nile, to be quietly interred in the tomb he built on Rhode Island, near his beloved Mamluk barracks. Only a handful of the most trusted servants know the true contents of the cargo. To everyone else, it's just another shipment of supplies. Next, you have to maintain the illusion that the Sultan is alive and in command. This is where your years of apprenticeship pay off. You know the routine of the court, the mechanics of power. You announce that the Sultan's health has taken a turn for the worse and that no one is to disturb him. All orders will be issued from his tent as before. Food is still prepared and brought to his tent 3 times a day. The empty plates are taken away. His personal orchestra is instructed to play music outside his tent at the usual times, to create the illusion of normalcy. The most critical part is the paperwork. Every day, dozens of documents require the Sultan's signature or seal to authorize troop movements, pay salaries, and appoint officials. An army cannot function without this constant stream of authorized paper. And this is where you commit your most brilliant and dangerous act of forgery. You had watched the Sultan sign documents for years. You had overseen the drafting of his decrees. Now, you take the pen yourself. You begin to forge his signature. This is a detail that seems like something out of a spy novel, but it is a recorded historical fact. You, al-Durr, took the official documents, retired to the privacy of the inner tent, and signed them with the dead Sultan's name. For documents that required the royal seal, you used the one he had entrusted to you. Historians still marvel at the sheer nerve and meticulous planning this required. How did you get the handwriting so perfect? Did you practice, or was it, as some have suggested, a known secret among the highest echelons that you were already co-signing documents with his permission before his death? This point is debated, but the outcome is not. The machinery of the state continued to function without a single hiccup. Run by a dead man whose will was being executed by his widow in a tent on a battlefield, you have shouldered the most fatal secret, and now you must rule from the shadows. You are now the secret, beating heart of the Egyptian war effort. Your days are a blur of terrifying, high-stakes performance. You live in the Sultan's tent, a ghost ruling the name of a ghost. Every moment is a risk. A curious guard, a suspicious emir, a slip of the tongue, any of it could bring the entire deception crashing down. Your public persona is that of the devoted wife, guarding her gravely ill husband. You allow only the emir aka Charles, the commander of the army, into the outer chamber of the tent for his daily briefings. You speak to him from behind a screen, pretending to relay the Sultan's orders. My lord, the Sultan commands that you reinforce the left flank. You would say, your voice steady, betraying none of the crushing pressure you feel. Aka Charles, an old and experienced courtier, must have had his suspicions. Aemon doesn't stay alive long in Ayyubid politics without a keen sense of when things are not what they seem. But he was also a patriot. Whether he knew the full truth or simply chose not to ask the question that would unravel everything is a matter of historical speculation. He played his part, accepting the Sultan's orders without question. This created a fragile chain of command. The orders originated with you, were legitimized by the forged signature, and then transmitted to the army through the unsuspecting or willfully ignorant aka Charles. It was an absurdly precarious system, but for now, it held. Your most critical task is to manage the succession. The empire cannot be run by a ghost forever. There must be a new sultan. The rightful heirs are Sully's son, Turin Shah. The problem is, he's hundreds of miles away in his NKFA, a fortress in what is now modern-day Turkey, where his father had sent him to keep him out of the treacherous politics of Cairo. You draft a letter, one of the most important documents you will ever write. It is, of course, written in the name of the Sultan. It informs Turin Shah that his father is gravely ill and that he must ride to Egypt with all possible speed to take command of the army and the throne. You sign it with the dead man's hand. You dispatch the fastest and most loyal Mamluk messenger to carry this summons. Now you are playing a desperate game against time. You have to keep the secret of the Sultan's death long enough for Turin Shah to arrive. The journey will take weeks. Every single day is a new gamble. You are not just hiding a death, you are actively commanding an army. You receive intelligence from your spies in the Crusader camp. You know Louis Ajax is preparing to advance. The French have been building a causeway, a land bridge, to try and cross the small channel of the Nile that separates them from your position at Mansoura. Egyptian commandos, swimming under the cover of darkness, continually sabotage this work. But it's a temporary measure. The main assault is coming. Working with Baz and the other Mamluk commanders, you lay a trap. The plan is a classic of mobile step warfare, the kind of strategy that is in your blood. You will let a portion of the Crusader army cross the river. You will feign a retreat, drawing them into the narrow, winding streets of Mansoura town. Then, you will seal the entrances and attack them from all sides, turning the town into a killing box. Here we see another of those fascinating little details of medieval warfare. The plan relied on the specific psychology of the French knights. The Mamluk commanders knew that the French chivalric code prized reckless, aggressive charges. They were banking on the French vanguard, led by the king's hot-headed brother, Robert of Artois, to abandon all discipline and charge headlong into the bait, just as they had done on the beaches of Damietta. You approve the plan. The order is given, stamped with the seal of a dead man. The Mamluk cavalry melts into the side streets of Mansoura. The infantry takes up positions on the rooftops and in the houses. The town appears quiet, almost deserted. All is ready. You have now been ruling in secret for several weeks. The strain is immense. You sleep in snatches. You eat without tasting the food. You are constantly aware of the enormity of your secret. a single word of which could doom the kingdom. There is no historical precedent for what you are doing. No woman in Islamic history has ever wielded this kind of direct, albeit hidden, military and political authority. The chroniclers of the time, had they known, would not have had the words to describe it. They would have called it witchcraft, a devilish deception. But you know what it is. It is survival. It is the only thing standing between your people and conquest. You sit in your tent, listening to the sounds of the camp, waiting for the alarm that will signal the French have crossed the river and fallen into your trap. The alarm comes just before dawn on February 8th. Ya al-Muddin. A frantic messenger bursts into the command center, a local Egyptian guide. Either a traitor or someone tortured into submission has shown the Crusaders a secret, unguarded for to cross the river. The French vanguard, led by the impetuous Robert of Artois and a contingent of English knights and Templars, is across, and they are charging. The Emir Fakh al-Din is caught completely by surprise. He is in his bath when the first sounds of fighting erupt inside the camp. He barely has time to throw on his armor and leap onto his horse before Robert's knights thunder into the Egyptian encampment, cutting down soldiers still scrambling from their tents. Fakh al-Din, the commander of the army, is killed in the first chaotic moments of the assault. The Egyptian camp is thrown into chaos. It seems like a repeat of the Damietta disaster. Robert of Artois, flushed with his initial success, sees the town of Mansoura ahead. His advisors, the seasoned masters of the Knights Templar and the English commander William Longsworth, plead with him to halt, to wait for King Louis and the main body of the army to cross and consolidate their position. But Robert, arrogant and eager for glory, ignores them. The cowardice of the Saracens is revealed. He shouts, and orders the charge to continue. It is the fatal mistake your strategy was counting on. From your position, you hear the sounds of battle drawing closer. Then moving past you, into the town, you hear the triumphant war cries of the French knights. It is the moment of maximum danger, with Fakh al-Din dead. The army is officially leaderless, and it could easily set in and turn the retreat into a rout. This is where the Mamluks, and their commander Baybars, prove their worth. They are not a feudal levy, they are a disciplined, professional force, and their loyalty is not to a dead emir, but to the regime that you currently embody. Baybars, a military genius with ice in his veins, sees Robert's reckless charge not as a threat, but as a glorious opportunity. He gives the signal. The trap is sprung. As Robert and his knights pour into the narrow streets of Mansoura, they suddenly find their path blocked by barricades that seem to appear from nowhere. The Mamluk cavalry, who had been hiding in the alleyways, now surge out behind them, sealing the entrance to the town. The Crusaders are trapped. From the rooftops and windows, a storm of arrows and stones rains down on them. The heavily armored knights, so formidable in an open field, are helpless in these close quarters. Their horses panic, slipping on the cobblestones. They are too tightly packed to maneuver or form a battle line. The Mamluks, lightly armored and incredibly agile, swarm them. You are not on the battlefield, but you can picture the scene vividly from the reports that start to flow back to you. It is a brutal, methodical annihilation. Robert of Artois, who dreamed of glory, is cornered in a side street and killed. The entire contingent of Knights Templar who charged with him is wiped out, save for a handful of survivors. William Longsworth, the English commander, also falls. The flower of the French vanguard is cut down in a matter of hours. When King Louis IX finally gets his main army across the river, he isn't met by a routed, fleeing enemy. He is met by the grim sight of the Mamluk army, reformed and waiting for him, and the news that his brother and his best knights are dead. The Battle of Mansoura turns into a grinding, bloody stalemate. But you have done more than just win a battle. You have captured the ultimate prize. During the chaos of the fighting, as the French army eventually begins to falter and retreat in disarray, they are harried every step of the way. Their supply lines are cut, starvation and disease, particularly scurvy, begin to ravage their camp. Their fighting spirit is broken. In a final, desperate attempt to flee back to Damietta, the retreat turns into a rout. And in the midst of this rout, the unthinkable happens. King Louis IX of France St. Louis, the leader of all Christendom, is surrounded and captured. This is a stunning victory, a world-changing event. A Muslim army has not only defeated a major crusade, but it has captured the Christian king who led it. It's the medieval equivalent of capturing a president or a prime minister today. The news electrifies the Muslim world and sends shockwaves of disbelief across Europe. The credit for the victory is publicly given to the soon-to-arrive heir, Turan Shah. But you, the Mamluk commanders, and a very small circle of initiates know the truth. The victory at Mansoura and the capture of a king were achieved under the secret command of a woman, ruling from behind a curtain in the name of a dead man. It is an act of political and military genius that has no parallel. You have saved Egypt. Now comes the even harder part, dealing with the fruits of your victory. A little historical side note: the ransom for King Louis IX was immense. It was set at 800 Dabro gold BZants, a truly astronomical sum. He also had to surrender the city of Damietta. One of the strangest details is that the French were unable to count out the full sum correctly. And the Egyptians, in a gesture of chivalric grace, or perhaps just wanting to get the deal done, forgave the difference. The King of France was held captive until this staggering payment was made, a guest of the state you secretly controlled. The victory celebrations are euphoric but short-lived. Just as the crisis of the invasion begins to recede, a new one arrives on horseback. Turan Shah, the heir you summoned, finally reaches the camp at Mansoura. His arrival is a moment of profound relief and immense anxiety. On one hand, the deception is over. You can finally let the crushing burden of your secrets slide from your shoulders. A legitimate, male, Ayyubid Sultan is here to take the throne. The natural order, at least on the surface, has been restored. So, you orchestrate the final act of your charade. You and the top emirs go to the Sultan's tent to inform him of his son's arrival. You emerge moments later, your face a mask of feigned grief, to announce the news that everyone already suspected, but dared not say aloud: Sultan al-Salih Ayyub has died. But you declare, praise be to God, his valiant summoned successor, Turan Shah, is here to lead them. The army formally swears allegiance to the new sultan. The official transition of power is seamless. Your brilliant, treasonous, and patriotic deception has worked perfectly. You have held the kingdom together through its darkest hour and delivered it, victorious and intact, to the rightful heir. You have earned your place as a hero of the dynasty. But Turan Shah doesn't see it that way. He is a young man who has spent his life in a provincial backwater. Suddenly thrust into the center of immense power, he arrives not with gratitude, but with suspicion and arrogance. He did not witness the panic after Damietta. He did not experience the tense weeks of waiting at Mansoura. He did not fight in the battle. He has walked into a victory that was already won for him, and he resents that fact. He especially resents you. In his eyes, you are everything that is wrong with his father's court. You are a woman, a former slave, a foreigner who has been wielding power that, by rights, should only belong to Ayyubid princes like himself. He sees your intelligence and influence, not as an asset that saved the kingdom, but as a threat to his own authority. He fears you, and he deals with that fear by trying to humiliate you. Almost immediately, he begins to sideline you. He demands that you hand over the state treasury, accusing you of hiding his father's wealth. He sends messengers to your chambers demanding the jewels and gifts al-Salih had given you, treating you not as the Dowager Sultana, the widow of a king, but as a common servant who needs to be put back in her place. You handle these insults with a cold, dignified fury. You understand the game he is playing. He is trying to strip you of your influence and your wealth, to isolate you and render you powerless. But his biggest mistake is his treatment of the Mamluks. He looks at these elite Turkish warriors, men like Baybars and Deytute, the architects of the victory, and he sees not heroes, but slaves. He sees them as his father's creatures, and he is determined to replace them with his own inner circle, the men he brought with him from his NKFA. He promotes his own inexperienced favorites to high command and treats the veteran Mamluk generals with open contempt. This is political suicide. The Bahri Mamluks are not just an army, they are the foundation of the entire regime. They have just defeated the most powerful army in Europe and captured a king. Their sense of their own power and importance is at an all-time high. They see themselves as the true guardians of the state, and they look at this arrogant, ungrateful newcomer with growing disgust. One particularly odd and revealing incident, recorded by the chroniclers, shows Turanshah's instability. During a drunken banquet, he would take a candle and slash at the tops of it, shouting the names of the Mamluk emirs he intended to execute. Thus shall I do with Baybars, thus with Deytute. It was the act of a paranoid tyrant, and the Mamluks took the threats very seriously. The Mamluks begin to look to you. You are one of them. The Kipchak. You were the trusted partner of the great Sultan al-Salih. They had fought and won under your secret command. Their loyalty to the Ayyubid dynasty was always conditional, based on the strength and respect of the ruler. The old sultan had earned that respect. This new one has squandered it in a matter of weeks. The question of what to do next is a subject of intense, secret debate among the Mamluk commanders. They know that Turanshah is planning to move against them. They can either wait for him to pick them off one by one, or they can strike first. Historians still debate your exact role in these conversations. Did you actively encourage the plot against Turanshah, seeing it as the only way to protect yourself and the state, or were you a more passive figure? A symbol of legitimacy that the Mamluks rallied around the latter seems unlikely given your personality. It's more probable that you were a key player in the conspiracy, using your political intelligence to guide the Mamluks' raw military power. The situation is incredibly volatile. The victorious army is about to turn on itself. Their new sultan, who should be consolidating his power and enjoying the fruits of an incredible victory, has instead managed to alienate the two most powerful forces in the kingdom, the Mamluk generals and the Dowager Sultanate. He has inherited a kingdom, but he has no idea how to rule it. His reign, which began with so much promise, is about to come to a very abrupt and violent end. The breaking point comes swiftly. Turanshah, feeling increasingly confident, decides it's time to eliminate the Mamluk leadership, but the Mamluks, with a far superior intelligence network, learn of the plot against them before it can be enacted. They decide they have no choice but to launch a preemptive strike. The coup is planned for May 2nd. During a grand banquet the Sultan is hosting at his riverside pavilion. It is a brutally efficient operation. The chosen conspirator is Baybars, the most brilliant and ruthless of the Mamluk generals. In the middle of the feast, as Turanshah is eating, Baybars strides forward and strikes the first blow with his sword. The Sultan is wounded in the hand but not killed. He stumbles back, screaming for help, and flees from the pavilion. The scene descends into terrifying chaos. The Sultan, his royal robes stained with blood, runs toward a wooden tower near the river's edge, hoping to barricade himself inside. The Mamluk conspirators, their swords drawn, chase after him. They surround the tower, but Turanshah has managed to bolt the door. What follows is a grim, almost farcical siege. The Mamluks, the elite soldiers of the empire, start shooting arrows at the tower. Turanshah, the last Ayyubid Sultan of Egypt, is trapped inside, pleading for his life. He shouts from the windows, offering to abdicate, to return to his fortress in the north, to give them everything he owns if they will just spare him. But it's too late for that. The Mamluks have crossed a line from which there is no return. They have committed regicide. They cannot afford to leave him alive. Frustrated by his refusal to come out, they set the tower on fire. The wooden structure quickly goes up in flames, driven out by the smoke and heat. Turanshah, his clothes smoldering, makes a desperate run for the river. He wades out into the water, hoping to escape, looking back at his assassins on the bank. This final, vivid image is recorded by the French knight Jean de Joinville, who was a prisoner nearby and witnessed the event. He describes Turanshah in the water, begging for his life, while the Mamluk stand on the bank, firing arrows at him. Finally, Baybars himself wades into the river and kills the Sultan with his sword. The reign of Turanshah, which lasted only a few months, is over. The Ayyubid dynasty in Egypt, the dynasty of the great Saladin, has been extinguished in a blaze of fire and blood on the banks of the Nile. Your role in this day is shrouded in silence. You were not at the banquet. You were, most likely, in your quarters in the main camp, waiting. The chronicles do not record your immediate reaction, but this was no surprise to you. You were, at the very least, aware of the Mamluk's intentions. It is highly probable that you gave your tacit approval, if not your active encouragement. Turanshah had made himself your enemy. His removal was a matter of your own survival. A lesser-known detail of the coup is the Mamluk's immediate action afterward. They didn't just kill the Sultan. They systemated down and eliminated his retinue, the favorites he had brought with him from his NKFA. It was a thorough and ruthless cleansing of the old regime, ensuring no rivals were left to challenge their newfound power. Now, a new and unprecedented crisis emerges. The Sultan is dead. The heir is dead. The Ayyubid line in Egypt is broken. Who is to rule? The Mamluk, the mere heirs, gather in the Sultan's great reception tent, the very tent where Turanshah had held his fatal banquet. The throne of Egypt is empty. The mood is a mixture of exhilaration, ambition, and deep uncertainty. They are warriors, not statesmen. They know how to win a battle, but they don't know how to run a country. They are also keenly aware of their own status as former slaves. The idea of one of them simply declaring himself Sultan is problematic. It would lack legitimacy in the eyes of the people, the religious scholars, and, most importantly, the remaining Ayyubid princes in Syria, who would immediately declare war. They need a ruler. They need someone with a connection to the old regime, a symbol of continuity that can mask the raw reality of their military coup. They need someone with intelligence, political skill, and the respect of the army. And as they debate, all eyes turn in one direction. They turn towards you. It is a radical, almost unthinkable idea. The Islamic world had seen powerful queen mothers and regents, but a formal, reigning female sultan, a woman whose name would be read in the Friday prayers and stamped on the coinage, it had never happened. But who else was there? You were the wife of the great Sultan al-Salih. You were the mother of his beloved son, Khalil, who had tragically died as a child. But the memory of his legitimacy remained. You had, in secret, already ruled the country and lead them to their greatest military victory. You had the trust of the Mamluks. You had the intelligence. You had the experience. The exact details of this debate, who proposed your name first, who argued for or against it, are lost to history, a private conversation among the military junta. But the consensus they reached was revolutionary. The Mamluk emirs, the most powerful men in the land, walked from their meeting to your quarters. They bow before you, and they ask you, Esura al-Durr, the girl from the steppes, the slave from the Cairo market, the widow of the Sultan, to take the throne. They are offering you the ultimate prize. They are asking you to become the Sultana. You are in your tent, the epicenter of a silent earthquake. The Mamluk emirs, the men who just decapitated the Ayyubid dynasty, stand before you. Their heads bowed. They, the kingmakers and kingbreakers, are asking you to rule. It is a moment suspended in time. The audacity of the proposal is staggering. For you, it is the culmination of a life of impossible transformations. From a free nomad to a captive slave. From a nameless commodity to a pampered concubine. From a favored companion to a queen consort and shadow ruler. And now, this, the final, highest rung on the ladder, to be the Sultana, the sovereign ruler, in your own right. You accept. Of course, you accept. Every step of your life has prepared you for this moment. Your ambition, your intelligence, your will to survive it all leads here. But you accept with the cool calculation that has become your trademark. This is not a moment for giddy triumph. It is a moment of extreme political delicacy. The first step is to establish your legitimacy. You are not a usurper, you must signal, but a rightful successor. You adopt the title Walidat al-Malik al-Malik al-Mansakello, which means mother of the king al-Mansakello. This is a stroke of political genius. It links your rule directly to your dead son and, through him, to your revered husband, Sultan al-Sali. It frames your accession not as a personal seizure of power, but as a mother stepping in to protect her son's legacy. You also adopt the Regan al name, al-Malika Ismat al-Din Kello, a title emphasizing your role as the protector of the faith and mother of Kello. The Mamluks move quickly to solidify your position. A formal announcement is made. You, Shajar al-Durr, are the new ruler of Egypt. The Emir and the army take a public oath of allegiance. The Baal. To you, this is the crucial ceremony that formalizes your rule. But swearing an oath is one thing, winning the acceptance of the wider world is another. You need to perform the symbolic acts of sovereignty. And this is where you truly break with centuries of tradition. One of the most powerful symbols of a ruler's authority was the khutbah, the sermon given during Friday prayers in the main mosques of the capital. During this sermon, the name of the reigning sovereign was spoken aloud, a public acknowledgement of their rule before God and the people. You give the order your name is to be included in the khutbah. Imagine the scene. The great mosque of Amr ibn al is in Cairo, packed with the city's faithful. The khatib, the preacher, ascends the pulpit. And for the first time in the city's long history, the congregation hears the name of a woman invoked as their ruler. O God, protect the Sultana, the master of the world and the faith. Shajar al-Durr. This was a revolutionary act, and one that undoubtedly caused a storm of debate among the city's religious scholars. The ulama, the other great symbol of sovereignty, was coinage. A ruler's legitimacy was literally stamped onto the currency of the realm. You order the mint to strike new coins, gold dinars and silver dirhams. On one side, they bear the name of the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, the nominal spiritual head of the Sunni Muslim world, a necessary nod to tradition. But on the other side, for the first time ever, are your name and titles. Al-Malika Shajar al-Durr. Your name becomes the coin of the realm. This is a small detail that speaks volumes. Some of these coins survive to this day, housed in museums around the world. Holding one is like holding a tangible piece of your defiance and power. They are among the rarest and most sought-after coins in Islamic numismatics, a testament to the brevity and the uniqueness of your reign. You immediately prove to be a capable and decisive ruler. Your first major act is to conclude the negotiations with the captive King Louis IX. You finalize the terms of his ransom, the surrender of Damietta, and the payment of a vast sum of gold. You oversee the transaction with a firm hand, ensuring Egypt gets its due. You release the king, ridding your country of the last remnants of the Crusader invasion. It is a masterful closing of a difficult chapter. But while you are cleaning house in Egypt, a new storm is brewing in the north. The Ayyubid princes in Syria, led by the powerful ruler of Aleppo, al-Nasir Yusuf, are utterly scandalized by the events in Cairo. The murder of their cousin Uranshaw was bad enough, but the elevation of his father's slave wife to the throne, it is an intolerable insult to their lineage and their honor. They refuse to recognize your rule. Al-Nasir Yusuf declares himself the rightful heir to the Sultanate and begins to assemble an army to invade Egypt and liberate it from the rule of a woman and her Mamluk cronies. Even more dangerously, you face a challenge from the ultimate spiritual authority, the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, al-Musta'sim, when he receives the news that the Mamluks have placed a woman on the throne of Egypt. He sends a scathing, sarcastic letter back to the emirs in Cairo. The letter, as quoted by the historian al-Eurasian, is a masterpiece of condescending patriarchal fury. Since no man among you is worthy of being sultan, he wrote, I will bring you one from here. Tell us if there are no men left in Egypt, that we might send you a man. The caliph's public repudiation is a devastating blow. It undermines the very foundation of your legitimacy. The Mamluks, who put you on the throne, begin to get nervous. They are brilliant soldiers, but they are in uncharted political territory. They chose you to provide legitimacy. But if the caliph himself rejects you, that legitimacy is worthless. The pressure, both internal and external, is becoming immense. The empty throne has been filled, but it is resting on very shaky ground. The weight of the caliph's scorn and the threat of an imminent Syrian invasion are too much to bear. The Mamluk emirs, the very men who put you on the throne, begin to waver. Their revolutionary experiment is failing. They are pragmatic men. They know they cannot fight a war on two fronts, one against the Ayyubids in Syria and another against the religious establishment represented by Baghdad. They need a solution, and they need it fast. They come to you not with a demand, but with a proposal, a political compromise. You cannot rule alone. They argue, the optics are impossible. The court needs a man at its head, a sultan. They propose that you abdicate the throne in favor of one of them. This is a bitter pill to swallow. After just 80 days of formal rule, your historic reign is to end. In 2 days, a fleeting moment in the grand sweep of history. But you are a survivor. You understand the political realities. A defiant stand will get you nowhere. It will likely get you killed. You have to bend, to adapt, to find a new way to hold on to power. So you agree to step down, but you do not agree to become irrelevant. The Mamluk's proposal has a second part. You will abdicate, and you will marry the man they choose as the new sultan. The man they choose as Ayyubid Empire. Aybak is a relatively unremarkable, mid-ranking Mamluk emir, and that is precisely why he is chosen. He is not a charismatic, ambitious firebrand like Baybars or Aqt. He is seen as pliable, manageable, and unlikely to challenge the power of the senior Mamluk leadership. He is a compromise candidate, a figurehead. The plan is simple. Aybak will have the title of sultan, but the real power will remain with the senior Mamluk emirs, and you, as his wife, will be the power behind the throne. You agree to the marriage. It is a purely political transaction, a marriage of convenience in the truest sense of the word. On a summer day in 1250, you formally abdicate the throne of Egypt, and you marry Aybak. He is proclaimed sultan. Your name is removed from the Friday prayers and from the coinage. On paper, your brief, revolutionary reign is over. But in reality, you have just executed a brilliant strategic retreat. You have traded the public, controversial title of sultan for the private, but arguably more secure, position of sultan's wife. You are no longer the lightning rod for every criticism from Damascus and Baghdad. You can retreat into the veiled, traditionally female sphere of the palace, a world you know how to navigate better than anyone. From there, you will continue to rule. And all you do. Aybak might be the sultan, but you are the one with the political acumen, the experience, and the connections. He is new to this level of power. You have been wielding it for years. The official documents now bear his name, but the decisions behind them are often yours. You refuse to be relegated to the harem. You remain at the center of political life. Your apartment in the citadel continuing to be a hub of power and influence. You are the one who manages the court, who understands the intricate web of alliances and rivalries among the Mamluk factions. Aybak, for his part, seems to accept this arrangement at first. He owes his position entirely to you and the emirs who engineered this compromise. He is the public face, and you're the chief strategist. Here is a detail that illustrates your continued power. Your signatures. While your name was taken off the coins, for a time, official documents were signed with both your name and Aybak's. This was a highly unusual arrangement, signaling a de facto co-rule. Historians who study the documents of this period see it as clear evidence that your abdication was a legal fiction. You were still very much in charge. The Mamluk state under this new arrangement is a tense and unstable beast. It's essentially a triumvirate. There is Sultan Aybak, the official head of state. There is you. There's your al-Durr, the shadow ruler and source of legitimacy. And there is the powerful Mamluk faction led by the Emir Ayyubid, the hero of Mansoura, who acts as the commander of the armed forces and feels he is the true power in the land. This three-way balance is inherently unstable. For now, it holds, because you are all united by a common enemy. The Ayyubid ruler of Syria, An-Nasir Yusuf, is still marching south with his army, determined to crush your nascent Mamluk regime. The political maneuvering in Cairo must be put on hold. The first great test of the new Mamluk state is at hand. They must prove they can defend Egypt not just from foreign crusaders, but from their own Muslim rivals. And you, from behind the curtain of your new marriage, are once again at the heart of the war effort, planning the defense of the kingdom you refuse to let go of. The initial period of your marriage to Aybak is a masterclass in political puppetry. He has the title, but you have the influence. You are the seasoned stateswoman, and he is the novice ruler, still finding his footing. Together, with the Mamluk military command, you form a united front against the existential threat from Syria. The Ayyubid army of An-Nasir Yusuf crosses the border into Egypt. The decisive battle takes place at al-Soleh Hiyyya, on the eastern edge of the Nile Delta. It is Mamluk versus Ayyubid. A clash between the new power and the old. The Mamluk forces, battle-hardened from their war with the Crusaders and led by brilliant commanders like Ayyubid and Baybars, win a crushing victory. The Syrian invasion is repelled. The Mamluk regime has survived its first great test. With the external threat diminished, the internal cracks in the regime begin to show. The fragile triumvirate of you, Aybak, and the powerful Mamluk general Ayyubid starts to crumble. The power struggle begins in earnest. Ayyubid is the biggest threat. He is the most popular and powerful of the Bahri Mamluks. He was a hero at Mansoura, and he sees himself as the kingmaker, the true leader of the Mamluk faction. He treats Aybak with open contempt, viewing him as a weak placeholder. Ayyubid and his Bahri Mamluks act like a state within a state. They control the best territories. They are arrogant and demanding, and they dominate the streets of Cairo. You watch this growing rivalry between your husband and Ayyubid with careful, calculating eyes. Initially, you and Ayyubid are loosely aligned. Both of you see Aybak as a tool to be managed, but you are far too shrewd to tie your fate to the reckless and overconfident Ayyubid. You know that his ambition is a threat not just to Aybak, but to the stability of the entire state and ultimately, to your own position. Your husband, Aybak, is caught in the middle. He is the Sultan, but he is constantly humiliated by Ayyubid. He knows he is a figurehead, and he begins to resent it deeply. He is not content to be your puppet or Ayyubid's. He starts to quietly build his own power base, a group of Mamluks loyal only to him, known as the Muisi Mamluks. The political maneuvering inside the citadel becomes a tense, whispered affair. It is a three-way chess match played in the corridors of power, in the barracks, and in the bedchamber. This is where your unique position as Aybak's wife becomes a powerful weapon. You are privy to his fears, his frustrations, and his plans in a way no other Mamluk leader could be. The bedchamber becomes an extension of the council chamber. The historical chronicles, written by mid-century men, are often silent on the specifics of these private conversations. They record the public outcomes, the decrees, the appointments, the battles, but they can only speculate on the intimate pillow talk that shaped these events. Historians must read between the lines, but it's almost certain that you played a crucial role in advising Aybak, in stealing his resolve, and in helping him strategize against your common rival, Ayyubid. You saw that Ayyubid's ambition was a fire that would eventually consume everyone. It had to be extinguished. A particularly galling move by Ayyubid brings the situation to a head. He decides he wants to marry a high-ranking Ayyubid princess from Homa. This is a direct challenge to Aybak's authority. By marrying into the old royal family, Ayyubid would gain a new layer of legitimacy, something Aybak, the nondescript Mamluk, completely lacks. Even more audaciously, Ayyubid demands that he and his new royal bride be allowed to live inside Cairo Citadel itself. He is essentially demanding to be treated as a co-ruler. This is a step too far for Aybak. It's the ultimate humiliation. For you, it's a direct threat. There is only room for one queen in the citadel, and you have no intention of sharing your palace with some Ayyubid princess brought in by your chief rival. Aybak is hesitant, fearful of Ayyubid's power, but with your encouragement and strategic guidance, he realizes he has to act. A conspiracy is hatched between you, Aybak, and a small circle of his most trusted Muizi Mamluks, led by a commander named Tuyutuz. The plan is simple and brutal. They will eliminate Ayyubid. They lure Ayyubid into the citadel under the pretext of consulting him on a matter of state. Ayyubid, arrogant as ever, enters the Sultan's audience hall alone, leaving his guards outside. It is a fatal miscalculation. Once inside, the doors are locked, and he is ambushed by Aybak's men. He is killed on the spot, in a famously gruesome display of power. Ayyubid's head is then thrown from the walls of the citadel down to his waiting Bahri Mamluks below. The message is unmistakable: their leader is dead, and there is a new, undisputed master in Cairo. The Bahri Mamluks, leaderless and terrified, scatter, many of them, including the brilliant and dangerous Baybars, flee Egypt, seeking refuge in Syria. In a single, bloody afternoon, Aybak, with your help, has consolidated his power. He has eliminated his chief rival and broken the power of the dominant Mamluk faction. He is no longer a puppet. He is the sole, undisputed Sultan. And now, you have a new problem. You helped create a strong, decisive ruler. But the strong ruler is much harder to control. The puppet has cut his own strings. The power game between you and your husband is about to enter a new and much more dangerous phase. With Ayyubid gone and the powerful Bahri Mamluks scattered, the political landscape in Cairo changes dramatically. The tense, three-way standoff is over. Now, it is a diarchy, a kingdom ruled by you and your husband, Sultan Aybak, and the relative peace of this new arrangement does not last long. Aybak is a changed man. He has tasted true power. The kind that comes from ordering the death of your chief rival and watching his followers flee in terror. The once stable, unremarkable emir is gone, replaced by a confident, ambitious, and increasingly ruthless sultan. He is no longer content to be the junior partner in your political marriage. He wants to be the sole ruler, in fact as well as in name. The powers struggle, which was once played out in the council chambers against a common enemy, now moves entirely behind the closed doors of the royal apartments. It becomes a domestic cold war, a battle of wills between husband and wife. You are a formidable opponent. You still hold immense informal power. You have your own network of loyalists within the palace. You control a vast personal fortune, which gives you an independence that no other woman in the kingdom could dream of. And most importantly, you have your reputation. You are still Shajar al-Durr, the widow of the great al-Salih, the woman who saved Egypt. Many of the older Mamluks still feel a sense of loyalty to you that supersedes their loyalty to Aybak. Aybak tries to chip away at your authority. He begins to make decisions without consulting you. He appoints his own men to key positions, bypassing the candidates you recommend. He tries to get control of your finances, demanding you turn over more of his kingdom's wealth to the state treasury. You resist him at every turn. You are a master of palace intrigue. You use your spies to learn of his plans before he can enact them. You use your influence with key courtiers to block his appointments. You refuse to relinquish control of your fortune, reminding him that it is your personal property, legally acquired. The conflict is a constant. simmering tension that fills the halls of the citadel. One of the key arenas of your conflict is the raising of Aybak's son, Al-Mansur Ali. Ali is Aybak's child from a previous, lower-status wife. Aybak wants to designate him as the official heir, establishing his own dynasty. You, on the other hand, have no interest in promoting the child of another woman. Your power is based on your connection to the Ayyubid legacy of al-Salih, not on Aybak's new Mamluk line. You subtly work to undermine Ali's position, ensuring that the court remains divided on the issue of succession. This period is one of the most fascinating and poorly documented of your life. The chronicles record Aybak's public decrees, but the private war between the two of you is a matter of inference and reading between the lines. It's a conflict that wouldn't be out of place in a modern political thriller. A quiet conversation with a loyal eunuch could scuttle a policy. A carefully placed rumor could destroy a man's career. You and Aybak are locked in a struggle for control, using every tool at your disposal. A particularly telling point of contention is the issue of the exiled Bori Mamluks. Aybak sees them, especially Baybars, as a mortal threat. He wants them hunted down and eliminated. You, however, take a more nuanced view. You understand that they are a powerful military asset. While you wouldn't want them back in Cairo challenging your power, you also see the danger in completely alienating them. You maintain discreet channels of communication with some of them, keeping your options open. This is a classic example of your long-term strategic thinking versus Aybak's more immediate, breadth-first approach. The historical debate here centers on your motives. Were you genuinely trying to forge a more stable foreign policy? Or were you cynically keeping a potential weapon in reserve to use against your husband if necessary? The truth is likely a bit of both. The strain of this constant battle takes its toll on both of you. The trust, if there ever was any, is gone. The political marriage has become a prison for two. Aybak resents being constantly challenged by his wife. He feels his authority is never absolute as long as you are there. A living reminder of the old regime and a constant check on his power. You, for your part, feel betrayed. You saved the kingdom. You elevated Aybak from obscurity to the throne. You helped him defeat his rival. And now, he is trying to cast you aside. It is an act of profound ingratitude that you cannot forgive. Aybak knows that as long as you are alive, he will never be the sole master of his own house. He cannot divorce you. Your political standing is too high. He cannot imprison you without causing an uproar. He is trapped, and so, he starts to look for a way out. He begins to plan a move that will not only secure his political future, but will also be a direct, personal, and unforgivable attack on you. He decides to take a new wife. The news comes to you not through an official announcement, but through the web of whispers and secret messages that you so carefully maintain. It is a piece of information so sharpened, so wounding it cuts through your political armor and strikes you to the core. Sultan Aybak is negotiating a new marriage. And this is not to be just any marriage. He is not planning to elevate another concubine or marry the daughter of a minor courtier. He is aiming for a grand political alliance. He has opened negotiations to marry the daughter of Badr al-Din Lulu, the powerful and respected Atabeg, or ruler of Mosul. This is a brilliant political move for Aybak, and a devastating one for you. On a political level, an alliance with Mosul would dramatically strengthen Aybak's position. It would give him a powerful ally in the contentious politics of the region and grant him a new layer of legitimacy, connecting his Mamluk regime to an established and noble ruling family. It would, in a single stroke, make him far less dependent on the legacy of al-Salih and therefore, far less dependent on you. But the real blow is the personal one. This is not just politics. This is a public and profound humiliation. In the culture of the court, a man taking a second, high-status wife was a clear signal that the first wife had fallen from favor. It was a repudiation. After everything you have done saving the kingdom, placing him on the throne, securing his power, he is planning to replace you. He is signaling to the entire world that you are no longer the premier woman of the state. He is bringing in a younger, blue-blooded rival to usurp your position. For you, this is the ultimate betrayal. It is one thing to joust for political power in the council chambers. It is another thing entirely to be publicly cast aside for another woman. Your pride, forged in the fires of the steppe and honed in the cutthroat politics of the court, cannot endure this insult. You confront him. The chronicles do not give us a script of this conversation, but we can imagine the scene. The air in the royal apartments, already thick with years of unspoken resentment, now crackles with open fury. You, the woman who ruled a nation, who faced down the armies of Christendom, now face your husband. You likely remind him of everything you have done for him. You accuse him of ingratitude. You warn him of the consequences. Ayyubid, for his part, is no longer the timid emir you married. He is the Sultan. He is defiant. He probably justifies his decision in cold, political terms. It is for the good of the state. It is a necessary alliance. He may even throw your own power back in your face, accusing you of meddling, of refusing to accept your proper place. The argument is bitter, and it resolves nothing. He makes it clear that he intends to proceed with the marriage. You are left with a stark choice. You can accept this humiliation. You can fade into the background, becoming the dowager, the first wife, living out your days in opulent irrelevance while a new, younger queen takes your place at the center of power. You could be a footnote in the story of Ayyubid's new dynasty. Or you can fight. You have spent your entire life fighting. You fought for survival on the slave road. You fought for position in the harem. You fought for the kingdom against the Crusaders. You fought for power against Tur and Shawn de Qute. The instinct to fight, to never accept defeat, is etched into your very soul. The thought of gracefully stepping aside is alien to you. And so, in the quiet of your chambers, your mind, which has navigated so many complex political crises, now turns to a final, terrible solution. Ayyubid has become an obstacle that cannot be moved, a threat that cannot be managed. He is about to destroy your life's work and humiliate you in the most painful way imaginable. If he will not be stopped, he must be removed. The exact moment you made the decision is your secret alone. Was it a snap decision, born of rage and wounded pride, or was it a cold, calculated conclusion? The final move in a deadly chess game. Historians continue to debate your primary motivation. Was it the political threat or the personal insult that pushed you over the edge? Perhaps you no longer saw a distinction between the two. Your political power and your personal pride were now one and the same. To lose one was to lose the other. You begin to plan. You have servants who are loyal to you and only you. You have wealth to buy silence and complicity. You have an intimate knowledge of the Sultan's routines, his habits, his vulnerabilities. Ayyubid thinks he is planning a wedding. He has no idea he is about to attend his own funeral. The tree of pearls is about to bear its most poisonous fruit. You choose the place with chilling intimacy, the hammam, the palace bathish. It is a place of vulnerability, where a man is stripped of his armor, his robes of state, and his guards. It is a place of steam and water, where secrets can be whispered and screams can be muffled. The date is April 10th. You orchestrate the evening with meticulous care. You put on a facade of reconciliation. You send a message to Ayyubid, feigning a change of heart. You invite him to the bathish, perhaps for a private evening. A chance to put their recent troubles behind them. Ayyubid, perhaps relieved, perhaps suspecting nothing from the woman who had been his partner for 7 years, accepts the invitation. As he makes his way to the bath, you give the signal to the loyal servants and eunuchs you have chosen for the task. They are men who owe their careers, perhaps their lives, to you. Their loyalty is to you, not to the Sultan who has been threatening your position. The details of the assassination are grim and contested, a scene reconstructed by historians from biased and often contradictory accounts. But the core events are clear. When Ayyubid enters the steamy, marble-lined chambers of the hammam, he is not met by his wife. He is met by a group of assassins. He is unarmed and unprepared. He fights back, but he is outnumbered. The struggle is brief and brutal. In the end, Sultan Ayyubid Empire, the first Mamluk Sultan of Egypt, is beaten and strangled to death in his own bath. The puppet who cut his strings has been finally and irrevocably broken by the puppeteer. You have done it. You have eliminated the threat. You have avenged the insult. You are, once again, the sole, supreme power in the citadel. But a murder, especially the murder of a sultan, is not a secret that can be kept for long. Your initial plan is to conceal the death, just as you did with your first husband, al-Sultan. In the morning, you summon two of the leading Mamluk emirs to the palace. You calmly inform them that Sultan Aybak died suddenly in the night from a stroke or a seizure. You propose that his son, the young al-Mansur, be immediately proclaimed as the new sultan, with you, of course, acting as his regent and guardian. You are attempting to replay your greatest political triumph. But this is not the eve of the Battle of Mansoura. There is no Crusader army at the gates to unite the kingdom, and Aybak was not a universally revered, dying patriarch. He was a man with his own powerful faction, the Muizi Mamluks, led by the shrewd and formidable general, Crusader. The emirs you summoned are suspicious. They demand to see the body. When they are shown Aybak's corpse, the signs of a violent struggle are unmistakable. There are bruises on his neck. His fingers are broken. This was no peaceful death in the night. The story of a sudden illness falls apart. The news spreads through the citadel like wildfire. The Sultan has been murdered, and everyone knows who gave the order. The Muizi Mamluks, loyal to their dead master Aybak, are enraged. They are not interested in your claims or your proposals. They see only a treacherous queen who has murdered their leader. Led by Crusader, they immediately move to seize control of the citadel. They surround your quarters. They demand justice. Your own supporters, the men who carried out the assassination for you, begin to panic. They see that the tide is turning against you. Your authority, which seemed absolute just hours before, evaporates in an instant. You are no longer the revered Queen Mother or the feared Shadow Ruler. You are a cornered assassin. You have made your final, fatal miscalculation. You successfully eliminated your rival, but you failed to anticipate the speed and ferocity of his supporters' revenge. You thought you could control the narrative, just as you had before, but this time, the story has spun out of your control. The power vacuum you created has been filled not by you, but by your sworn enemies. The intricate web of power you have spent a lifetime building has just been irrevocably torn. You are trapped. The citadel, which for so long has been your fortress and the instrument of your power, is now your prison. The men loyal to Qutuz and the memory of Aybak control the gates, the walls, and the corridors. Your own network of loyalists has disintegrated. Its members either captured, killed, or having fled to save their own lives. You are utterly alone. Your last remaining refuge is the Red Tower, a formidable keep within the citadel's walls. You barricade yourself inside, a queen with no kingdom, a commander with no army. With you are a few of your most trusted female servants. It is a grim, ironic echo of Turuncha's last stand, the man you helped overthrow, who also met his end in a tower. From your high window, you can see the new reality of the court taking shape without you. Crusader, a master politician in his own right, moves swiftly. He has Aybak's 15-year-old son, al-Mansur, formally proclaimed as the new sultan. This is a clever move. It maintains a facade of dynastic continuity and placates those who might be nervous about another abrupt seizure of power. It makes Qutuz appear as the loyal servant of his master's son, the protector of the legitimate heir. But everyone knows who holds the real power. Qutuz makes himself the Ayyubid, or regent, for the young sultan. He is now the undisputed master of Egypt. Your situation is hopeless, and you know it. The siege is just a formality. They could storm the tower at any moment, but your pride, That indomitable Kipchak spirit refuses to surrender meekly. You will not give your enemies the satisfaction of capturing you and your legendary wealth intact. In a final act of defiant fury, you begin to destroy your treasures. You take the magnificent jewels that Aybak and al-Salih had showered upon you, the emeralds, the rubies, the sapphires, and you grind them into dust with a mortar and pestle. It is a desperate, symbolic act. If you cannot keep your wealth, you will ensure no one else can have it. The tree of pearls is destroying its own fruit, turning priceless gems into glittering powder. This specific act of defiance is one of the most vivid and debated details of your final days. Did it really happen? Some historians view it as a dramatic embellishment by later chroniclers, a story too perfect to be true. Others argue it is entirely consistent with your proud and unyielding character. It is an act of symbolic resistance, a final, desperate assertion of your will over the material possessions they so coveted. You are demonstrating that even in defeat, you control the fate of your own legacy. This siege does not last long. Tuz has no reason to rush. He knows you have nowhere to go. The end is inevitable. After a few days, your small enclave is breached. You are captured. You are not granted the dignity of a formal trial or a quiet execution. Tuz, in a shrewd political move, decides to wash his hands of your fate. He knows that executing you himself could be risky. Despite your crimes, you are still the widow of the revered Sultan al-Salih. There are those in the army and the city who might see your death at his hands as an opportunistic power grab. So he delivers you to the one group of people who have the most personal and visceral reason to hate you, the women of the harem. Specifically, he hands you over to the mother of the new boy sultan, al-Mansur. She was Aybak's other wife, the one who had been cast aside and humiliated for years while you reigned supreme. Now, the tables have turned with a terrible vengeance. You are taken from the Red Tower and handed over to a group of enraged women, led by your rival. You are stripped of your fine clothes, the power, the status, the reverence you commanded for years are all gone. You are once again what you were when you first arrived in this city, a helpless, captive woman. Your fate is now in the hands of your bitterest enemies. They will not be merciful. The final scene of your life is not set on a battlefield or in a grand throne room. It unfolds in the cloistered, female world of the harem, the very place where your extraordinary rise began. It is a grim, circular journey. You are ending where you started. But now you are not an object of desire, but an object of pure, concentrated hatred. The mother of al-Mansur, the woman you so thoroughly overshadowed, is now your judge, jury, and executioner. She and her servants surround you. There are no swords, no poison, no hangman's rope. The instruments of your death are to be as domestic and as humiliating as she can make them. They attack you with their QABQab, the tall wooden clogs worn in the bathish. It is a death of unimaginable indignity. The Sultana who ruled an empire, who commanded armies and decided the fates of kings, is beaten to death by a mob of angry women wielding their shoes. They beat you until you are lifeless, and then, in a final act of desecration, they drag your body out and throw it over the walls of the citadel into the moat below. For several days, your body lies there, exposed to the elements, a feast for the stray dogs of Cairo. It is a shocking and brutal end, a cautionary tale whispered in the city for generations. Finally, either out of some lingering respect or simple public health concerns, your body is retrieved. You are buried, not in the magnificent tomb you began to build for yourself and your son next to al-Salih, but in a much smaller, though still beautiful, tomb near the Mosque of Ibn Tulun. It's a place you yourself had commissioned years earlier. A small act of patronage that would ironically become your final resting place, and it is still there today. A tourist can visit it. A quiet, elegant structure that gives little hint of the epic, violent, and revolutionary life of the woman buried within. Your death marks the definitive end of an era, with you gone. Qutz is the undisputed master of Egypt. He soon deposes the young al-Mansurodi, declaring himself Sultan. And it is he who will go on to face the next great threat to Egypt, a devastating invasion by the Mongols, who have already sacked Baghdad and destroyed the Caliphate at the pivotal Battle of Injilut, leading the Mamluk army, which includes a newly returned from exile Baybars, will inflict the first major defeat on the Mongol horde. A victory that arguably saved not just Egypt but the future of Islamic civilization in the region. But Qutuz does not get to enjoy his victory for long. On the triumphant journey back to Cairo, he is assassinated in a conspiracy led by his ambitious rival, Baybars. Baybars then becomes Sultan, establishing a dynasty that will rule Egypt for over 2.5 centuries. The Mamluk Sultanate, the state you helped to found, will become one of the most powerful and enduring empires of the Middle Ages. And what of your legacy for centuries? Male historians, uncomfortable with your story, portrayed you either as a scheming, seductive villain or downplayed your role entirely, presenting you as a mere footnote in the reigns of the men around you. They focused on your scandalous death, not your incredible achievements. But in modern times, your story has been re-examined. Historians now recognize the sheer brilliance of your political maneuvering. You were a master strategist, a ruthless survivor, and a ruler of incredible courage and audacity. You are no longer just the woman who was strangled by a curtain or beaten with clogs. You are the slave who became a sultana, the only woman to ever formally rule as a sovereign in the mainstream Islamic world. Your story is a testament to the fact that even in a world designed to render you powerless, a person of extraordinary will can rise, and for a brief, shining moment, hold an empire in the palm of her hand. The story is over now. The echoes of battle have faded. The whispers of the court have fallen silent. The great citadel of Cairo stands quiet under the vast, star-filled Egyptian night. The dust of centuries has settled over the tombs of sultans and slaves alike. Imagine yourself floating away from that world, rising high above the narrow, sweeping streets of the old city. The sharp edges of the story begin to soften, the intense moments of fear and triumph blurring into a gentle, flowing dream. The wind that once swept across the Kipchak steppe now carries you softly, a lullaby of time and distance. Let go of the drama, the ambition, the betrayals. Feel the tension leaving your body, like a tightly coiled rope slowly unwinding. All that remains is the soft hum of history, a deep and resonant chord that plays in the background of your own peaceful sleep. You have walked in the footsteps of a queen, and now you can rest. The journey is done. The world is quiet, and you are safe, drifting peacefully into the gentle currents of the night. Sleep now, just sleep. The end of the article. Good night.